The bathroom door slammed so hard it shook the hallway walls. The sharp echo rolled through the restaurant like thunder after a storm. "You think a fake smile makes you good at your job?" The manager's voice sliced through the silence, low and venomous. Lily froze beside the sink, clutching a damp towel as if it could shield her. Her knuckles were white, her hands trembling so badly that drops of water slid down her wrists. Tears welled up, blurring her reflection in the mirror. But she didn't speak. She had learned that in some battles, silence hurts less than words. What she didn't know, what he didn't know, was that just outside that door stood a man who had heard every word. A man who'd fought real wars. Her husband. A decorated Navy SEAL, home earlier than she ever expected. Hey there, friends. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment if you believe that kindness always finds its way back. Your support helps Whispers of Kindness bring true emotional stories like this one to life. The restaurant was called Riverside Ember, a cozy upscale corner in the heart of a busy city. To strangers, it was warm laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of jazz under dim amber lights. But for Lily Matthews, every shift felt like walking through rain with no umbrella. She'd been there for 3 months, long enough to memorize the rhythm of the kitchen, the hiss of the grill, and the sting of her manager's words. His name was Evan Shaw, the kind of man whose smile fooled customers, but cut deep into his staff. Lily was never late, never careless, never rude, yet he always found something to criticize. Her ponytail wasn't neat enough, her smile was too forced, her uniform too wrinkled. But the truth was darker. Evan didn't hate her mistakes, he hated her resistance. He hated that Lily didn't flirt back, that she ignored his looks, that she carried herself with quiet dignity. She was small, gentle but unshakable, and beneath that calm exterior lived a woman forged by loneliness, strength, and love for a man who was oceans away. Few knew she was married, fewer still that her husband was a soldier. She never bragged, never mentioned his name. She just worked hard, kept her head down, and endured. But that night, her silence had a witness, and everything was about to change. Lily had lived through sleepless nights, whispered calls over crackling lines, and the silent terror that each ring of the phone could bring news she never wanted to hear. Her husband was out there, fighting wars she could only imagine, and she was fighting her own, quietly, every day. That Friday night was supposed to be just another ordinary shift. The dinner rush had faded, laughter from the dining hall dimmed, and the clinking of dishes turned to a tired rhythm. Lily moved to the back to clean up, exhaustion pressing heavy on her shoulders, the kind of weariness that didn't just live in her body but settled deep in her soul. She leaned over the sink to wash her hands when the bathroom door suddenly slammed open. Evan stormed in, his face twisted with irritation. "What did I say about the glasses, Lily?" he barked. Startled, she turned. I cleaned them twice, sir. Maybe one just had a—" "Excuses," he snapped, cutting her off. "That's all you ever have." He stepped closer, his tone sharp enough to make her flinch. "You think I don't notice how clumsy you are? You think this place is a charity keeping you out of pity?" Her throat tightened as she forced out, "I'm sorry, sir. I'll double-check everything." But Evan wasn't done. His breath hit her cheek, hot and bitter. "Sorry doesn't fix incompetence. You're lucky I haven't fired you already. If it were up to me, you'd be gone tonight. But somehow those innocent eyes of yours keep you around. Guess the owner's got a soft spot for you." His words landed like knives. Humiliation burned through her chest, her eyes stinging. "Please, Mr. Shaw," she whispered, voice trembling. "I just want to do my job." Evan gave a cruel, low laugh. "Then start acting like you deserve it." He snatched a towel from the counter and threw it at her. It hit her shoulder and slid to the floor. "Clean that up," he said coldly. Then with a smirk he added, "Maybe when your husband finally drags himself home, you can tell him you finally learned how to obey." And with that, he stormed out, completely unaware that just down the hall, someone had heard everything. A tall man stepped out of the shadows of the corridor, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp, posture steady. Jason Matthews, home 2 days early from deployment, 8 years a Navy SEAL. He had seen the worst of humanity and learned to stay calm under fire. But in that moment, hearing Evan's voice echoing with cruelty, something primal stirred inside him, a rage he hadn't felt in years. He waited until Evan's footsteps disappeared, his jaw tight, his pulse steady. Then, quietly, he pushed the bathroom door open. Lily was kneeling on the floor, trembling, reaching for the towel he'd thrown. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. When she looked up and saw him standing there, her hands froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Jason?" she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. "Jason," she breathed, her voice trembling like the last note of a sad song. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and dropped to his knees beside her. "Hey," he murmured gently, wrapping his arms around her shaking frame. "Hey, I'm here. You're okay now. I've got you." That was all it took. The dam inside her finally broke. She buried her face into his chest, her sobs muffled against his uniform jacket. Her whole body shook, months of fear, exhaustion, and humiliation pouring out all at once. "I didn't know you were back," she gasped between sobs. "I wanted to surprise you," he said softly, brushing a tear from her cheek. Then his voice changed, lower, colder. "But I didn't expect to walk into this." Her eyes darted toward the door, panic flickering across her face. "Please, Jason, just leave it. He's my boss. I can't lose this job." Jason inhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. "No one," he said quietly. "No one talks to you like that. Not while I'm breathing." He stood, and in that moment the room seemed to shrink around him. The calm, gentle husband was gone. In his place stood the soldier, the man forged by combat, trained to face chaos with discipline and precision. His eyes darkened, not with fury, but with purpose. Evan was standing near the bar, smirking as he chatted with another server, completely unaware of what was coming. Jason approached, his boots echoing softly across the floor. "You the manager here?" Jason's voice was low, but carried like thunder. Evan turned, visibly annoyed. "Who's asking?" "Jason Matthews," he replied, his tone cold as steel. "Husband of the woman you just humiliated." Evan blinked, momentarily thrown off. I don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe she's just—" Jason stepped closer. The air between them grew heavy, charged. "You don't get to talk about her. You don't get to touch her. And you never get to belittle her again," Evan scoffed, trying to recover his bravado. "Listen, sir, this is a workplace matter. You can't just barge in here and—" Jason leaned in so close that only Evan could hear. "I've stared down men who had the power to end my life," he said quietly. "Don't test how calm I can stay when it comes to protecting my wife." He didn't raise his voice, but the words hit harder than any shout could. Then Jason straightened, turned to face the staff and diners who had frozen mid-conversation. "Anyone here ever seen Lily treat a customer badly?" he asked, his voice ringing through the room. "Ever seen her be rude, lazy, or disrespectful?" Silence. Then, one by one, heads shook. A timid voice from the corner said, "She's the nicest person here." Jason nodded once, his jaw tight. "Good. Then maybe this place should start treating her that way." Evan stood stiff, his confidence draining from his face. And that's when the restaurant's owner stepped out from his office, expression unreadable, eyes sharp. He had heard everything. "Evan," the owner said firmly, his calm voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "My office, now!" Evan's smug expression drained in an instant. His face turned pale, his jaw clenched, and without another word he vanished behind the office door. Jason turned toward the hallway, where Lily stood frozen, eyes wide with tears still glistening on her cheeks. He walked up slowly, his voice soft again, gentle, protective. "Let's go home," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't need this place anymore." She nodded silently, relief and disbelief mixing in her eyes as they walked out together. "Friends," the narrator's voice carried softly, "if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support keeps real emotional stories like this alive." That night, rain whispered against the windows of their small apartment. Lily sat curled up on the couch, a steaming cup of tea in her hands. She stared at it for a long time, the reflection of the streetlights dancing in her eyes. "I feel weak," she said finally, her voice barely a whisper, "like I should have stood up for myself." Jason sat beside her, taking her trembling hands in his. "Hey," he said gently, "you weren't weak. You were surviving. There's a difference." His voice softened even more. "Strength isn't always in shouting, Lily. Sometimes it's in holding yourself together when the world tries to tear you apart." Her eyes filled again, but this time not with pain, with something warmer, hope. She leaned into him, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she let herself breathe. Safe, seen, loved. A few days later, her phone rang. It was the restaurant owner. His voice was sincere. "Lily," he said, "I owe you an apology. You didn't deserve what happened. I'd like you to come back. Evan's position is open. It's yours if ye."